Hello there. Welcome to another episode of Spontaneous Conversation.
I can't hear you.
Okay, you can't hear me. Okay.
Can you hear me?
What about now?
Yes, finally.
Okay. So looks like after that initial technical glitch, welcome to another episode of Spontaneous Conversation. This is Ravi Gundlapalli, founder and CEO of Mentor Cloud, and joining me on this totally new technology called Lightstream is my friend, mentor, colleague, Dr. Mr. Rajesh Sethi. Rajesh,
Hello, Ravi. I am so excited. This is a new toy. I'm excited about this.
exactly, and it is the Christmas time, and everybody's getting gifts. And one of my good friends, Stu Grubbs, who I met in Summit in LA 19, essentially gave us this gift of being able to do this live podcasts. So let's make this our inaugural video podcast, our spontaneous conversation series. And Rajesh, what topic should we pick to have a conversation today?
What about this is the time that people plan for their new year?
Okay,
So we can either pick how do we plan for the new year or how do we reflect on the previous year. So whatever you think is right.
perfect. So let's call it planning for the new year.
Got it. Very good.
Okay, wonderful. So, I remember very early on when I used the word plan,
Hmm.
somebody said planning without acting is a big waste of time. Acting without planning is confusion. This is actually from an Indian scholar, Sri Chinmayananda. And since we are talking about planning for the new year, let us set the record straight. But you have to follow up with action on whatever you plan for 2020.
That is 100% right, Ravi. The people say plans are overrated, but without planning, actions will not be really optimal because you might have taken a lot of things for granted. So sometimes people who are smart, they take a lot of what they have as for granted. When they sit and with a open canvas, they start planning, they will suddenly realize how much resources they have accumulated in terms of knowledge, terms of resources, in terms of networks, in terms of other money and everything that they have. And most of the time, because they have taken it for granted, they won't deploy it to get
Mm,
what they want or to go where they want to go. So planning is extremely important. And sometimes it also opens up things that they had never thought of, because that is the time when they sit there and say, what should I do, how
right,
should I get to where I want to go.
right. And the thought that comes to mind, Rajesh, is you know next couple of weeks, or whenever people are listening, it's always important to take some time to reflect. What happened this past year. Look at what went really well,
Hmm.
what did not go well, what could have gone well.
Hmm.
I think experience, or the fact that you went through time, becomes a valuable sort of teacher only if you take time to reflect on it. And this, I'm essentially paraphrasing one of the quotes or statements I heard from our common friend Jason Womack. He said, everybody says, oh, if you do something over and over again, you get experience. But it becomes an experience and sort of a wisdom only if you take time to reflect. So the first thought I want to leave our listeners today is to first take time to reflect on what happened, where you are, and also get clarity on where you want to go. What do you think?
100% agree with you, Ravi. And not only that, we should also think about, what should they continue to do, what should they stop doing, and what should they start doing. So those are the three things like any reflection exercise should lead. And I have a simple thing that I always tell people, just like there is a no child left behind, they should follow a rule called no insight left behind. So, which
No
means
they left behind. That means you have to write them all down.
no, actually, we have to put it into action and manifest the results from that insight. And how do we do it is basically, you suppose you are teaching a class and then people get some ideas.
mm,
Ravi was teaching this class, I got this idea. The first thing they will think is, whatever anybody teaches, it's in the conceptual world, because there is never applied in a particular context, because the context is different for different people.
mm,
So sometimes they get an insight from you, and then they will say, in my context, it's not applicable immediately. So whenever it's applicable, I will do it. And then they will just push this into one side, they will write it down, or they'll put it in Evernote or something, and then they will never revisit it. It's like a black hole.
mm.
But if you have a rule that within 48 hours they have to implement that insight in one way or the other, what will happen? They will start looking around. Is there any friend of theirs that where the context is relevant so that they can apply this insight?
Mm.
And they don't have to go and implement it. They just have to inform them. Say, I was talking to Ravi, and then when he was teaching a class, he told me, I realized that for your context this will be useful. You should think about it. So immediately they start becoming a giver, and givers always gain.
Oh, just look at that. Givers always gain. Now, you wrote a whole book on gratitude. So obviously, giving is also an act of gratitude, right? And I think a lot of times, like you correctly said, the advice I'm hearing you say is an insight that you pick up, even though it may not apply to you, quickly share it to someone so that it means something to them. And in the process, you're giving, and you're also establishing a legacy. And also, because that you have shared once, you'll probably remember that insight, and in the future, when the context happens in your case, you can readily apply.
Exactly. And sometimes if they say, I'm just now starting, Ravi and Rajesh, I'm just a student. I just got out of college. I don't even have a lot of friends who are doing startups and all those things. What should I do? Well, there is social media. They are on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or something, wherever they are. They can say, this is what I learned today. I don't know for whom this will be applicable. I'm just going to post it anywhere. So they will start building their thought leadership by amplifying good things. So they can never have a good excuse to not share.
What a beautiful insight, and also something that every listener can actually do every day, and also in the new year, because you're also telling the world that this insight actually caught your attention, whether you are able to apply it or not. Because so many things happen, right? We are walking by the garden without observing the flower. It happens all the time because either we are busy. But the fact that you're advising people to share it, just put it out there on a Twitter or LinkedIn, Instagram. You're essentially selling. You're telling the world, these are the kinds of things that are catching my attention. And
That
in
is
the process, you're building a brand for yourself as what exactly sort of catches again, what means something to you, and the fact that you're willing to share it.
100% agree with you, Ravi. It's like this. So very rarely they hear an insight from you, and then they will not remember to say it verbatim, isn't it? So they get an idea and they have to say it in their own words. That makes them reflect on the insight automatically, because they have only 48 hours to make the most out of that insight. They are in a hurry to see, among all my people that I know, which is the context for which this is the right applicable insight. Which
Mm,
means they start caring for other people's projects. So that automatically says, they might remember something else. Oh, I actually met somebody else that I should make the introduction to him. So when you care for what others care about, you get a red carpet welcome into their heart. So automatically so many good things happen. And if they say, I have only 4 people that I know what they care about, why is it that I have 85 friends? Why is that I only know 4 people's projects? Then they
mm,
start listening to other people. What do they care about?
mm.
So third thing that you mentioned, when you start sharing, one more side effect happens, which means birds of the same feather flock together. If this is what I liked, then somebody else in their social network who also likes this kind of theme or subject, they'll say, oh, okay, I found another like-minded person, and the networks will start forming like a tribe. So they have multiple benefits.
Right. In fact, I wrote a blog once. How you said birds of the same feather flock together. I actually changed it to birds with the same destination fly together. So not
Oh,
only
beautiful.
you will collect people like yourself, you may eventually find people who are in the same direction as you in life, and who will get on your bus, and who will make your destination so much more joyful. So birds don't fly together, in my opinion, just because they all have the pink feather or the red feather. They all have a same destination. They all want to go eat somewhere or just have a party. So the fourth side effect that you mentioned of different side effects is you may find your tribe, and who are all sort of going after the same end goal in life. Because what do we want in the new year? Right? Let's take a look. Every human being wants, basically good health. They want to be happier. They want to have, more resources. It could be money. It could be time. It could be, things. But and everybody wants happiness, better families, better relationships. So everybody wants to do this. So you may actually find people who sort of care for the same things that you care for, and then you all start sort of, moving towards that common destination.
100%. Now, rewinding back to the, because when we both start talking, there is so many things to talk about. I want to bring us both back to the planning. So, because that is what
Which was our
that,
plan?
yes. So, one of the things that I always think about, Ravi, the reflecting back on the previous year and planning for the next year, is capacity to get things done. So if you think about it, we are always working on one or the other projects. Mostly in the same project, there are many sub projects that people are working on. One thing to I always tell people to reflect upon is, from last year to this year, let's say last December to this December, can we say our capacity to get things done has improved or not? So only you can be the person judge of it.
Hmm, hmm.
And if it is not, that means we have not evolved enough. That means we have not invested enough in ourselves. Because if we are growing, then our capacity to get things done would have improved. That means we would do the exact same thing what we were doing last year. We can do it faster, cheaper, better, with more quality or something like that. Let's say it was as simple as writing a blog post. If it would take 4 hours to write a blog post previous year, can you do it in 2 hours? Can you do
Hmm.
it better? Can you do it more quality? Something like that. It's very simple. And then, what is our plan for the next December? So now that I am there, what should I do? How much should I invest in myself? What network should I belong to so that my capacity to get things done increases significantly by next December? Because ultimately, you get rewarded based on the value you created. If you cannot get things done faster and better and more excellent quality, you cannot expect more rewards from the universe.
Wow, wow. We could end this conversation right there. So what you're recommending, or what we are sort of, coming to, is the importance of, looking at your own capacity to get things done. It's definitely, you can have bigger goals, and we encourage everyone listening to think big, because you are limited by your own thoughts.
Correct.
You're limited by your own sort of, beliefs, or sort of wrong beliefs. But the world is at your disposal. And
Correct.
as founders of Mentor Cloud, we know that by surrounding ourselves with, good mentors, good friends, people who really care about our success, you can increase your capacity, which means you can now think big. So I really encourage everyone to have big goals. What,
Correct.
if you don't have goals, set one up. Maybe it is a revenue goal, maybe it is a financial goal, maybe it is the amount of time that you want to spend with your families, or maybe it is the number of thank yous you want to give, or maybe the sense of gratitude, or a book that you want to write, or a place that you want to visit. Don't limit, because until, I'm reminded of a thought that I learned from a 14-year-old girl at a talk. She's unfortunately, no longer because she has a health condition. But she said something that stuck in my head, that everything in the world happens twice, once in your mind and once in reality.
Hmm.
So as you are planning, think big. Imagine the world that you want to be part of in December 2020, or anytime you're listening, 12 months from now, what is that you want? What is the world that you want to be in? And then think about all the ways that, like Rajesh, you said, all the ways that you can increase your capacity to get there.
Correct. And sometimes when we start talking like this, some people might say, Ravi, it's a little bit ethereal. I don't know. I can't put my hands together. How do I know that my capacity to get things done becomes better? So there is a proxy to it, Ravi. The proxy is what kind of help requests are you getting on your way where the stakes are high. So basically, when the stakes are high, that if you provide that help that people are asking for, they will either make more money or they will avoid a loss.
Mm,
So sometimes if somebody says, can you drop me at the airport? That's not a high stakes request because there is an alternative path for them to just take a Lyft or an Uber. There's nothing to do. But if somebody says, Ravi, I am hiring this person, I want to make the right decision. Can you help me think through this position?
mm.
Or they will say, Ravi, I'm thinking of selling my company. I want to tell a good story so that I get the right price. Can you help me with it? That's a high stakes request because the quality of help you provide can either make or break it, or if not make or break, it will increase the value of what they will get, or it will decrease the loss that they might incur without your help.
Without your help. Okay. So is your thought that people should look at the kinds of requests they got this year,
Yes,
sort of reevaluate, and
correct.
and again when they're asking requests of other people, make sure you are there are some of those requests that are high stakes, and you're asking the right people for help, and as part of the planning for the new year.
Exactly. If they just think about the help requests that are either going out of them or coming towards them, that's a big insight they will get in their own life. If the requests that are coming are of not of high stakes, then the world is not seeing their value yet, because otherwise people will ask for help. And then if they have a high stakes request and they don't have a relationship with people that have the capacity to fulfill their requests, then they have not built their network enough. So, which means
Hmm.
next year they have to invest so that they'll have that kind of network where they can get push button help.
Fantastic. Push button help. Another insight from Raj. So in closing, we are promised to keep our spontaneous conversations under 20 minutes, and this is our first live conversation. And in the future, we're going to allow certain time, when there are enough people following us that they can actually ask us questions live. So this becomes not only a spontaneous conversation, but also a spontaneous Q&A by all the people listening live to us. So, in closing, my thought is clearly look at where you are right now in life. That's your from address, and have the goal for where you want to be 12 months from now. That's your to address. Look at what is it that you need to do or change to be able to get there, and think about all the people who you should be reaching out to make that journey more effective and more efficient and more joyful and more impactful. So that would be my advice as we wrap up a year and start a brand new year, which also happens to be 2020, a year when we all should develop clear vision.
Yeah, for me, I want to add one more thing, Ravi. And I always tell every conversation I have with Ravi is super insightful, even if it is a casual conversation. If somebody gets your attention and your mind share, for example, they are reflecting on the year and they have built a relationship with somebody like you, they should get even 15 minutes from somebody like you to review their plan. So basically, am I doing it right? And that is where you can be vulnerable, humble, and also open to coaching or mentoring from somebody like you to say they cannot ask for hours and hours of your time, But if they have done all the work and say, Ravi, I've done everything, can I get 10 minutes of your time just to get a second opinion on this? Because they don't realize the power of mentoring until they experience it. If they have not experienced it, this is the time to make sure that they use that kind of power.
Fantastic. That's an excellent closing thought. Not only you should have a plan, you should also review it with people that you trust for 15-20 minutes. Just so that it sort of reiterates and sort of emphasizes in your own mind, and also gets perspectives from others. So have a plan, think big, surround yourselves with people who can increase your capacity to execute that plan, and definitely, like Rajesh said, evaluate their plans. Just have a quick review, so that you start off the year with an excellent roadmap for the next year. And every quarter, just do a reflection. Every month, do a reflection, how you are doing against that plan. So thank you all for listening. You can learn more about Ravi Gundlapalli at ravigundlapalli.com or mentorcloud.com. So Rajesh, how can people find more about you and your incredible wisdom?
They can go to my website rajeshsetti.com, or I just love to write, so they can Google my name and then they'll get a ton of articles. I just don't publish everything I write because people will think there is no other work this guy has, but there is enough articles there on the internet.
Fantastic, Rajesh. So, wish you happy holidays and a wonderful new year. And I'm really glad that we picked a spontaneous topic on something that is very timely for this time of the year. And we're using absolutely new technology, and I love it. And so, I hope the audio is clear, and we will do more of this. We will learn. And that's all experimentation is about, right? We experiment, and we try new things. So and signing off from our first live video spontaneous podcast and conversation. Thank you all.
Happy holidays. Bye.